Hi everyone, welcome to our YouTube channel, that is Code Virtual. Uh, Today we are going to start SQL Server, and this is our first part of introduction to SQL Server. So in this video we will go through the general introduction of the SQL Server, the basic architecture, as well as the default port and the general specification. And in the later video we will go through the wider concept of SQL Server. So in this video we will go through the SQL Server introduction. So this is the basic diagrammatical view of the SQL Server architecture. You can see on the top it is external protocols, that is named pipes, TCP, virtual interface adapter. We have a database engine, that is database tables, transaction, triggers, T-SQL, stored procedure, SQL, CLR is there. Below that we have a storage engine, that is transaction service, file manager, where the data actually stored, right? And we have a query processor like processor, optimizer, SQL manager, and we have a below, on the below architecture part, it is SQL APIs. So this is the basic architecture of the SQL Server, we can say, right? And this is the what called SQL Server architecture. So next video. So what are the components of SQL Server? Basically there are two components of SQL Server. One is database engine and second one is relational engine. The core component of the SQL Server is the database engine. The database engine consists of a relation engine that processes queries and a storage engine that manages data files, pages, indexes, etc. The database objects such as stored procedure, views, and triggers are also created and executed by the database engine. So database engine is the mechanism to process queries, and a storage engine that manages database files, pages, indexes, etc. Second term comes as a relational engine. The relational engine contains the component that determines the best way to execute a query. The relation engine is also known as the query processor. That means whatever the query we are giving, it is processed by the relational engine itself. So these are the basic features of the SQL Server, but before that I will navigate to the SQL Server Management Studio. That is the interface provided by Microsoft to do the transaction queries or the SQL database queries. So let's it be started. So I have given the command and you can see it is the Microsoft product, and we have SQL Server 2015 here. So this is the SQL Server Management Studio, and we have a this is the database engine. You can see there are analysis services, reporting services, integration services. So these are the types of the server. That means they are the component of the server, SQL Server. Here we have a server name. The server name is generally that application name where the server has been stored, and it is authentication, it is Windows authentication, there are SQL Server and authentication. Now in a higher version of the SQL Server we have Active Directory here. So if I connect with the Windows authentication, that means it is taking the Windows credential to log on. So here it is the internal, and here you can see that this is the Object Explorer, and here we have a database. You can create a new database for you, that is new database. Give the name of the database and it will create a new database for you, right? It is the security, that means where we can secure our data, that there are login credentials, login utilities are there. These are the server roles, right? That whatever there are DBAs which have different server roles, there are developers who have the different data roles. So all things then can be managed from this management studio. That means it is the interface provided by Microsoft to interact with the SQL Server database. Like we have you can see, if I navigate to the database, there are tables, views, Programmability, that means stored procedure, functions, triggers. We can define everything here in the SQL Server Management Studio, and later in our videos tutorial we will navigate in the deeper part. And here is the security. That means you can see there are two security parts, right? There are two security parts, and one is your this security, and second one is this one, right? And if I talk about this security, that means this below first security comes under this database, right? But second security comes under this server. That means we can distinguish the security parameters for the database as well as for the server. Some of the developer or some of the users may not have the access to this database. That means we can define the security for the database from security uh, this security. But some user have a database to all the databases that is present on this server. I'm talking about this server. So that means the security parameters are different from the whole machine, whole server, as well as it is different for the database. So that is how we can manage it using SQL Server Management Studio. In the later part, we will go through in the more detail for the SQL Studio. So be with us, and we will navigate on the detail part. So if I talk about the main feature of the SQL Server before proceeding to the SQL Server, that is SQL Server is implemented from the specification of RDBMS, that is Relational Database Management System. SQL Server is highly scalable, that we can scale out according to the requirement. We can store a large database, we can increase the memory. SQL Server is platform independent. That means it doesn't bound to any platform, that it can be run on the Linux, on the Windows, on the Mac. Every platform is suitable for the MS SQL Server. We can also have a SQL Server on the cloud, that I have mentioned here. We can have a cloud, and so cloud is the architecture provided by the various company like Amazon, Google, Microsoft Azure. So we can store a SQL Server there on the Azure databases. SQL Server is both a GUI and the command-based software. That means SQL Server Management Studio, it's a pure GUI. You can have a user interface, you can do your task, as well as you can also run a PowerShell scripts there to interact with the SQL servers. And on the last, SQL Server runs by default on the port of 143.3. That means if anyone asks you that what is the default port for on which SQL Server interacts with the database, because we have some port to fetch out, to read out, to get some data from the specific location, that is the port number is 1433 for SQL Server. So friends, we navigated through this. We have a channel, that is Code Virtual, on YouTube. You can subscribe that, you can press uh, uh, bell icon, and since this is the first part of SQL Server, so get tuned with us. We will navigate to the further detailed explanation of the each of the components like store procedure, functions, triggers, how can we can provide the logins for the various users, how can we can provide the default roles for every user. So please subscribe to this Code Virtual channel. Thank you.